I'm 84 now, and there are things in my house that have outlived the reasons I kept them. I didn't notice when they stopped being useful and started becoming something else, something heavier. I used to think holding on meant I was being careful, responsible, maybe even loyal. But at this age, you start to see the difference between keeping something and being kept by it. The house is quiet most days. Too quiet for a place this size. 3 bedrooms, a garage, a small study I thought I'd use more. I still walk through it the same way every morning, touching the backs of chairs, checking windows that haven't been opened in years. Not because they need checking, just because I remember when someone else used to. I suppose that's where this begins. Not with retirement, not even with age. It begins with accumulation. In my 30s, I bought things because I thought they meant something. A better car meant I was moving forward. A bigger house meant I was doing right by my family. I remember the first expensive watch I bought. I wore it even when I didn't need to know the time. It felt like proof. I didn't question any of it. No one does, not then. You're too busy building. My wife used to say I brought more into the house than I ever took out. She said it lightly, like a joke. But she meant it. I can see that now. The garage filled first. Boxes stacked on top of boxes. Tools I used once, maybe twice. Old paint cans, half empty, labeled for rooms we'd already repainted years later. I told myself I might need them again. You get used to saying that. I might need this. It sounds reasonable. It always does. Then the closets. Clothes I stopped wearing but couldn't quite let go of. Some still had tags. I'd tell myself I'd wear them for a special occasion. The occasions came and went. The clothes stayed. My wife kept things too, but differently. Photographs, letters, small objects that carried a story. She knew why she kept them. That's the difference. I didn't. I kept things because I could. I worked long hours back then. Left before breakfast, came home after dinner most nights. The kids grew up in the space between those hours. I told myself it was for them, for stability, for security. I missed small things, school plays, dinners that went cold before I arrived, conversations that had already happened without me. But I brought things home. That was my contribution. Furniture, electronics, upgrades. Proof I was doing my part. No one argued with me. That's what makes it easy to keep going. Years passed like that. Promotions came, pay increased, and so did everything else. More space, more objects, more reasons not to look too closely at what was being traded. Retirement wasn't sudden. It crept up. People started mentioning it before I did, asking what I planned to do with all my free time. I didn't have an answer. When the day finally came, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a pause. I thought I'd settle into something new, a slower rhythm, time for things I'd postponed. But the first thing I noticed wasn't the time. It was the house. All those things I'd gathered over decades were still there, waiting. Not for me exactly, just there. At first I thought I'd sort through it, one room at a time, get rid of what I didn't need. It sounded simple. It wasn't. You pick up an old jacket and suddenly you're not in the room anymore. You're back somewhere else. A dinner, a trip, a conversation you can't quite remember clearly. You hold on a little longer than you meant to, so you put it back. That's how it happens. Not all at once, piece by piece. There were 8 kinds of things, I realize now, that I should have let go of long before I did. Not because they were bad, just because they stopped belonging to the life I was actually living. The house itself is the first. Too big for one person, too full of echoes. I kept it because it felt like giving it up would mean admitting something had ended. My wife passed 12 years ago. Quietly. No long illness, no warning that felt sufficient. Just a slow absence that became permanent. After the funeral, people came by, sat in the living room, spoke in low voices, brought food I didn't eat. Then they left. One by one, the house stayed the same. That was the strange part. Nothing had changed physically, but everything had shifted. I thought staying there would keep something intact. It didn't. It just made the silence more noticeable. I should have sold it then. Moved somewhere smaller. Somewhere that didn't hold so many versions of a life that no longer existed. But I didn't. The car was another. I had a nice one, still do technically, barely driven. I kept it polished, maintained, ready. For what, I'm not sure. I don't go far anymore. Most days I don't go anywhere. It sits in the garage like a reminder of movement I no longer have. Then there are the collections. Books I never read, tools I never used again, boxes of things I once thought defined me, each one a version of myself I outgrew without noticing. I told myself they were part of my identity, but identity changes, objects don't, and so they become something else, a weight, a quiet obligation. The financial things were harder to see at first. Investments, accounts, properties I held on to because I'd worked hard for them, because letting them go felt like undoing that work. But what was I holding them for? The children have their own lives. They don't need most of it, and what they do need isn't what I thought it was. I spent years building something I believed would secure their future, but I wasn't present for much of their past. That trade doesn't balance. Clothes were easier. Eventually, I started noticing how little I actually wore. The same few shirts, the same trousers. The rest just hung there, waiting for a version of me that wasn't coming back. I gave some away. It felt strange at first, like I was letting go of more than fabric, but also lighter, in a way I hadn't expected. There are things you keep out of habit, things you keep out of fear, and things you keep because you don't want to admit you've changed. It took me a long time to understand the difference. The moment it became clear wasn't dramatic. No single event, just a quiet afternoon. I was in the study, going through a drawer I hadn't opened in years. Old papers, receipts, notes I didn't recognize. At the bottom, I found a letter from my wife. I don't remember when she wrote it. It wasn't dated, just a few lines folded neatly. She wrote about the house, about how full it felt, not just with things, but with time we weren't spending together. She didn't sound angry, just aware. She said she hoped one day we'd sit in the living room with nothing else to do and actually notice it. We never did. I sat there for a long time with that letter, longer than I can measure, and for the first time, I saw everything around me for what it was. Not achievements, not security, Just things I chose over moments, over conversations, over being present in a way I thought I could delay. That's the part that doesn't come back. Not the money, not the objects, the time. You don't feel it slipping when it does. It's only when you stop that you see how much has already gone. I started letting things go after that. Slowly. The house is still here, but I've begun the process. Talking to people, making arrangements. It should have happened years ago. The car will go next, then the rest. It's not about minimalism or simplicity. I don't care about those words. It's about honesty, about recognizing what still belongs to your life and what doesn't. If you're listening to this and you're younger than me, you'll probably think you have time to figure it out later. I did too. Later arrives quietly, without announcement. You don't need to get rid of everything. That's not the point. Just pay attention to why you're keeping something. Is it still part of your life or just part of your past? There's a difference. It matters more than you think. I used to believe that providing meant accumulating, that the more I had, the more secure everything would be. But security isn't what I remember now. It's the things I missed. A conversation I postponed. A dinner I rushed through. A moment I assumed would come again. They don't line up neatly in your memory. They appear at odd times, uninvited, and there's nothing you can do with them. That's what's permanently lost. Not in a dramatic way, just gone. I don't expect anyone to make changes because of what I'm saying. That's not how it works. People come to these realizations on their own, if they do at all. I'm only telling you what I see now, sitting in a house that no longer fits the life I'm living. There are fewer years ahead than behind. That's not something I'd dwell on. It's just a fact. The things I'm letting go of now should have been released when I still had more time to replace them with something else, something better. But you don't always know when that moment is, so you hold on, until holding on becomes the thing that keeps you from moving at all. I still walk through the house each morning. That hasn't changed. But now, sometimes, I stop. I look at something and ask a simple question. Does this still belong to me? And more often than not, the answer is no. There's a quiet relief in that. Not happiness, not sadness either. Just a kind of clarity. I don't know how much time I have left. None of us do, not really. But I know it's not enough to spend surrounded by things that no longer mean anything. If you find yourself in a room like this one day, I hope you notice sooner than I did. That's all. I'm 84, and I'm still learning how to let go.